In the quaint town of Windenburg, nestled among the rolling hills of Germany, a sense of unease began to creep into the lives of its residents. It started with whispers of a disturbing incident involving a figure dressed in a police uniform, a man who was not what he seemed. Leon, a skeptical journalist with a nose for the truth, received an anonymous tip about this supposed fake cop. He leaned back in his chair, brow furrowed, contemplating the implications of such a revelation. Could it really be true, he murmured to himself, glancing out of his office window at the peaceful streets below. The sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over the town. With a mix of skepticism and curiosity, Leon decided it was time to investigate further. He grabbed his notepad, a pen, and his ever-reliable camera, feeling a familiar thrill at the prospect of uncovering a story that could shake the very foundations of Windenburg. Meanwhile, just a few blocks away, Anya was in the midst of a distressing situation. She had witnessed an unsettling encounter between a man in a police uniform and her friend, Lucas. As she sipped her coffee, she replayed the scene in her mind. The faux officer, with his aggressive demeanor and piercing gaze, had pulled over Lucas for what seemed like a trivial infraction. "What are you doing? I haven't done anything wrong." Lucas had protested, his voice trembling slightly as he faced the imposing figure. "Shut up and get out of the car," the man barked, his tone low and menacing. Anya had watched from a distance, her heart racing as the bizarre interaction unfolded. The man's presence was suffocating, and she could sense something deeply wrong. After the encounter, she rushed to Lucas's side, her voice laced with concern. "Are you okay? That guy seemed off." Lucas shrugged, attempting to brush it off. "I'm fine, just a little shaken." "But you're right, something felt weird about him." Anya's unease settled deep in her stomach, a gnawing feeling that something sinister was brewing in their town. That night, as she tucked her children into bed, she couldn't shake the image of the fake cop from her mind, a specter haunting her thoughts. Elsewhere, Klaus, a retired police officer, sat in his dimly lit study, surrounded by stacks of old case files. The shadows danced on the walls as he flicked through the pages, memories of a time long past surfacing with each turn. One particular file caught his eye, an incident eerily similar to what was happening now. His hands trembled slightly as he read the details, a chill creeping down his spine. "This can't be happening again," he muttered, the weight of his past pressing heavily on him. He recalled the faces of victims, the families left shattered. Klaus had thought those days behind him, yet here he was, confronted by ghosts he had hoped to forget. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, cutting through the heavy silence. A message flashed on the screen, "Drop the investigation. This is your only warning." Klaus's heart raced. He had kept his distance from the force for years, but he knew he could no longer remain a passive observer. As Leon prepared to confront Anya about her unsettling encounter, he felt a growing sense of urgency. The tip he had received was just the beginning, and he needed to piece together the puzzle before it was too late. Whoever this fake cop is, he's not going to get away with it, Leon thought, determination igniting within him. But the anonymous message loomed ominously in his mind, a warning he couldn't ignore. With the sun setting, the shadows lengthened across Windenburg, and the air grew thick with tension. The townsfolk remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface, unaware that their lives were about to be irrevocably altered. Each of the three protagonists, Leon, Anya, and Klaus, stood on the brink of a revelation, poised to uncover a web of deception that would intertwine their fates in ways they could never have imagined. As Leon made his way toward Anya's house, he couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The truth was lurking in the shadows, waiting to be unveiled. Anya stood in the dim light of her kitchen, her heart racing as she recounted her terrifying experience to her neighbors, a group of women gathered for their usual coffee morning. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the sweet scent of pastries, but Anya found it hard to swallow anything. Her hands trembled slightly as she wrapped them around her mug, seeking comfort in its warmth. "I swear, he was wearing a police uniform, but something felt off," Anya insisted, her voice rising slightly with the urgency of her tale. He pulled over my friend and shouted at him like he was some criminal. I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't really a cop. One of the neighbors, Gisela, rolled her eyes dismissively. Anya, you're just being paranoid. It's a small town. We all know the local officers. They wouldn't let a fake cop run around. Anya felt a rush of frustration. But what if he is? I mean, there have been reports. Reports of nothing, Gisela interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. You're letting your imagination run wild. Maybe you need to get out more or stop watching those crime shows. The other women nodded in agreement, their laughter echoing around the quaint kitchen. Anya's cheeks flushed with embarrassment and anger. She felt alone, caught in a web of fear that no one else seemed to understand. I'm telling you, this is serious. What if he targets someone next? She implored, but her words fell on deaf ears, drowned out by their laughter. Meanwhile, Leon was buried in research in his cramped apartment, the walls lined with newspaper clippings about local crimes and strange happenings. The glow of his computer screen illuminated his furrowed brow as he sifted through a growing list of incidents involving fake police officers across the country. Each case had eerie similarities: men in uniforms, aggressive behavior, an unsettling air of authority. He scribbled notes furiously, piecing together a disturbing pattern. Maybe there's more to this, he muttered to himself, recalling Anya's story. He picked up the phone and dialed a number listed in his notes. Hello, I'm calling about the incident with the fake cop in your neighborhood. Can you tell me what happened? As he conducted interviews with victims, each call painted a clearer picture of fear and confusion. Yes, he pulled me over too, a voice trembled on the other end. It was like he wanted to intimidate me. I thought I was going to be arrested for something I didn't even do. Leon jotted down notes, his eyes narrowing. Did you get a good look at him? What did he look like? He had dark hair, and the uniform, it was just a little off. The badge didn't look real. I thought it was strange, but he had the lights and everything, the victim recounted, their voice filled with anxiety. Leon's heart raced as he realized the depth of the issue. Thank you for sharing. I'll make sure to report this, he said before hanging up. He knew he needed to dig deeper, to find more people willing to share their experiences. Klaus, meanwhile, sat alone in his study, surrounded by old case files from his years on the force. Dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through the curtains, and he could not shake the feeling that something was amiss. No, it's not okay, Anya replied, her voice shaky. I need to meet you. I have to tell you everything. I think I know more than I realized. Where do you want to meet? Leon asked, his tone instantly shifting to one of urgency. Let's meet at the cafe on Main Street. It's public, and I don't want to risk being overheard, she insisted. Okay, I'll be there in 30 minutes, Leon said, and they hung up. Anya felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. If anyone could help, it was Leon. He was relentless in his pursuit of the truth. Meanwhile, across town, Leon sat at his cluttered desk, staring at the anonymous message that had come through just hours ago. Stop digging or face the consequences, it read, sending chills down his spine. He couldn't help but wonder who was behind the warning and how they knew he was investigating. Ignoring it wouldn't be wise, but neither would abandoning Anya, especially after all she had been through. As he rubbed his temples in frustration, he made a decision. I can't back down now, he muttered. He grabbed his notepad and jotted down a few key points he wanted to discuss with Anya. When he arrived at the cafe, he spotted Anya sitting at a corner table, her expression a mix of fear and determination. He approached her, concern etched on his face. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said, trying to lighten the mood. I feel like one, she replied, forcing a smile. Thank you for coming. Leon sat down, leaning in closer. What did you want to tell me? Anya took a deep breath, glancing around the cafe to ensure no one was eavesdropping. "I've been thinking about everything that's happened. The fake cop, the calls. I can't shake the feeling that this is all connected to something bigger. I've started to piece together some details." "Like what?" Leon prompted, his curiosity piqued. "I remember something from that night when I saw the fake cop. He mentioned a name, one I didn't recognize at the time. But I looked it up, and it's linked to a series of unsolved cases in the area," she explained, her voice gaining strength. "I think he might be involved in a larger operation. This isn't just about scaring people, it's something more sinister." Leon leaned back, absorbing her words. "That's huge, Anya. If you're right, we might be onto something that could expose a lot of corruption." "Yes, but we need to be careful," Anya warned, her expression turning serious. "I've already received threats. Whoever is behind this won't hesitate to silence us." Just as Leon was about to respond, the door swung open, and Klaus stepped inside. He looked older than his years, the weight of his past visibly etched on his face. He spotted them and approached, a hint of apprehension in his eyes. "I heard you two were discussing the fake cop," he said, his voice low. "Yeah, we are," Leon replied, gesturing for Klaus to sit. "We think there's more to this than just a few impersonators." Klaus nodded solemnly, his expression grave. "I've seen things in my time as an officer that still haunt me. I thought those days were behind me, but I can't ignore what's happening now. If there's a conspiracy, we need to confront it, together." Anya felt a rush of gratitude. "We were just discussing how to trap the fake cop. If we can catch him in the act, we might finally get the proof we need." Leon's eyes lit up with determination. "Yes, but we have to be smart about it. We need a plan. If we can set up a meeting in the woods where he's been sighted, we might be able to catch him." Klaus frowned. "The woods, it's dangerous there. We need to ensure we have backup. If things go sideways, we can't afford to be caught off guard." Anya nodded, her heart pounding. "I agree. We can't take any chances. But we need to act quickly before he strikes again." As they brainstormed their plan, a sense of urgency enveloped the table. The stakes had never felt higher, and with each passing moment, the shadow of the fake cop loomed larger over their lives. They were stepping into a world filled with danger and deception, but their resolve to uncover the truth was stronger than their fear. Together, they would face whatever awaited them in the darkness. The night air was thick with tension as Anya and Leon crouched behind a cluster of bushes in the woods, their breath visible in the cool darkness. Anya's heart raced, echoing the pounding of her nerves. "Do you really think he'll show up?" she whispered, glancing at Leon, who was adjusting the hidden camera strapped to his chest. "He has to. This is where he's been spotted before," Leon replied, his voice steady, though a flicker of doubt crossed his face. They had been waiting for what felt like hours, the silence of the woods amplifying every rustle and snap of twigs beneath their feet. Just then, a sound broke through the stillness, a faint crunching of leaves. Anya's eyes widened as she nudged Leon with her elbow. "Did you hear that?" she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. Leon nodded, peering into the shadows, his pulse quickening. "Get ready. This could be it." The adrenaline surged through them as they huddled closer, the camera now at the ready. With each passing moment, their anticipation morphed into a palpable fear. The woods were dark, but they could see a figure emerging in the distance. The silhouette was unmistakable, a man in a police uniform, walking with purpose. "Is that him?" Anya whispered, her voice trembling as she focused on the approaching figure. Leon squinted, the moonlight catching the glint of the badge on the man's chest. "It looks like it." But just as they prepared to spring into action, the figure turned, and a wave of recognition washed over Leon. "No way," he muttered under his breath, his heart sinking. "Leon, what is it?" Anya asked, panic rising in her voice. The man stepped closer, revealing a face that Leon knew all too well, a face he never expected to see again. "Klaus," he exclaimed, disbelief etched across his features. Anya's eyes darted between Leon and the man before her. "What? Who is this?" Klaus, the retired police officer, stood frozen, his expression a mix of shock and confusion. "What are you doing here?" he finally managed, his voice hoarse. We were trying to catch the fake cop," Leon stammered, his mind racing. "But you're supposed to be retired. What's going on?" Klaus shook his head, his brow furrowed in frustration. "You don't understand. I thought you were in danger." "Danger? We are in danger." Anya interjected, her voice rising. "What are you doing dressed like that?" Klaus took a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions. "I had to come. I've been following leads, trying to understand what's been happening in this town. My past, it's not just behind me. It's part of this." Leon stepped closer, his skepticism returning. "You're saying you know something about the fake cops? About why they're targeting Anya?" "Yes," Klaus replied, his voice steadying. "But it's not what you think. I was part of something much bigger back in the day. There are corrupt officers I thought I left behind, officers who would do anything to protect their own." Anya felt a chill run down her spine. "And you thought dressing up like a cop would help?" The incident from years ago, one that had haunted him, flickered in his mind like an old film reel. He had thought he had left that behind, but the recent events had pulled him back in. "I have to do something," he muttered to himself, taking a deep breath. He stood, determination replacing the shadows of doubt that had clouded his thoughts. He decided to visit the local police station, hoping to bring his concerns to the current officers who might be able to help. As he entered the station, the familiar scent of coffee and the sound of ringing phones filled the air. However, the atmosphere was tense, and Klaus felt eyes on him as he approached the front desk. He cleared his throat, ready to voice his concerns. "I'd like to speak to someone about the recent reports of fake police officers," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The officer behind the desk eyed him warily. "We're aware of the situation, but unless you have concrete evidence, I suggest you keep your head down, Klaus. We don't need any more panic in this town." Klaus felt a surge of anger. Panic? This is a serious issue. People's lives are at stake. "Watch what you say," the officer snapped, leaning closer. "You're not on the force anymore. This isn't your jurisdiction." Stung by the hostility, Klaus left the station feeling more isolated than ever. The walls he once trusted now felt like barriers, and he realized that he had to take matters into his own hands. As he drove home, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything was connected, and he was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Back in his apartment, Leon stumbled upon a photo during his research, an image of a man in a police uniform that sent chills down his spine. The man looked strikingly familiar. "No, it can't be," he whispered to himself, his heart racing as he stared into the face of someone he thought he knew. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fit together in a way that felt all too sinister. As Anya sat in her dimly lit kitchen, the phone rang, cutting through the silence like a knife. She hesitated, her heart racing as she glanced at the caller ID. It was a number she didn't recognize. Taking a deep breath, she picked up the receiver, her fingers trembling slightly. "Hello?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Anya," a gruff voice responded, sending chills down her spine. "You need to keep quiet about what you saw. It's for your own good." "What do you mean?" she stammered, panic rising within her. "Who is this?" There was a pause, and she could hear the sound of static before the voice continued, "I'm with the police. We're watching you. Stay silent, or you'll regret it." The line went dead, and Anya dropped the phone onto the table, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The warning echoed in her mind, and she felt a wave of nausea wash over her. How could someone claim to be a police officer and threaten her? The image of the fake cop from her earlier encounter flashed before her eyes, his aggressive demeanor making her skin crawl. She was no longer just a witness, she was now a target. Meanwhile, Leon sat in his small, cluttered office, staring at the photo he had found. The man in the picture bore a striking resemblance to his friend, David. Leon's mind raced as he recalled their last conversation, where David had brushed off the idea of fake cops as mere urban legends. Ignoring the gnawing feeling in his gut, Leon picked up his phone and dialed David's number. "Hey, it's me. We need to talk," Leon said when David answered, trying to keep his voice steady. "About what?" David replied, sounding distracted. "I was just heading out. About the fake cops. I found a picture, one of them looks just like you." There was a brief silence on the other end, and Leon could hear David's breathing change, becoming more rapid. "That's ridiculous, Leon. You're chasing ghosts." "Am I?" "Because I have evidence, David. You need to come over so we can discuss this." "Fine. I'll be there in 10 minutes, David said, his voice tight. As Leon hung up, he felt a sense of dread wash over him. He had always trusted David, but now doubts were creeping in. What if his friend was more involved than he let on? The thought gnawed at him as he prepared for their confrontation. When David arrived, he stepped into the office with a casual demeanor, but Leon could sense the tension beneath the surface. "So, what's this about?" David asked, crossing his arms. Leon wasted no time. "I found this photo," he said, pulling it from his desk. "Look at it closely." David's eyes widened as he examined the image. "That's not me. It's just a coincidence." "Coincidence?" Leon shot back, frustration bubbling over. "It's too much of a coincidence, David. You've been dismissing all these reports, and now this? What's going on?" "Nothing is going on." David snapped, his voice rising. "You're just being paranoid. You think everyone is out to get you. Maybe they are. You don't understand what's happening in this town." Leon retorted, his voice thick with anger. "Maybe you've lost your mind." David shot back, turning on his heel. "I'm done with this conversation." He stormed out, leaving Leon standing in the middle of the room, feeling betrayed and alone. As the evening wore on, Klaus wandered through the woods near his home, a sense of urgency propelling him forward. Memories of his past haunted him, but he pushed them aside, focusing on the task at hand. He had heard whispers about a hidden area in the woods, a place where past victims had been found, and he felt compelled to locate it. The old instincts from his time as a police officer kicked in, and he followed the faint sounds of rustling leaves. Suddenly, he stumbled upon a small clearing, overgrown with weeds and shrouded in darkness. His heart raced as he stepped closer, the faint scent of decay lingering in the air. There, half buried beneath the underbrush, he saw something that made his stomach drop, a piece of clothing, stained and torn. Klaus knelt down, his hands trembling as he brushed away the dirt. The fabric was unmistakably a police uniform. "What the hell?" he gasped, realization dawning on him. This was a grave marker for the victims of the fake cop incidents he had heard about. Driven by a mix of anger and fear, Klaus felt the weight of his past decisions crashing down on him. He had sworn to protect, yet he had failed to do so when it mattered most. The shadows of guilt loomed large as he contemplated the implications of what he had just discovered. He was closer to the truth than he had ever imagined. Anya sat at the small kitchen table, her hands trembling as she clutched a mug of lukewarm tea. The steam spiraled into the air, dissipating as quickly as her hopes of feeling safe in her own home. The horrors of the past few days weighed heavily on her mind, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Each creak of the house sent shivers down her spine, reminding her of the fake cop's menacing voice on the phone. She needed to do something, anything, to regain control. Pushing back the chair, she stood up resolutely. I can't live like this anymore, she muttered to herself. She pulled out her phone and dialed Leon's number, her heart racing as it rang. After what felt like an eternity, he answered. Anya? Is everything okay? Leon's voice came through, filled with concern. I thought it would give me a chance to gather information, to expose them. I didn't mean for you to get involved, Klaus explained, guilt washing over his features. Then why didn't you come to us sooner? Leon pressed, his frustration boiling over. We could have worked together. Because I didn't want to drag you into this mess, Leon. I wanted to protect you both, Klaus replied, desperation creeping into his voice. As the weight of Klaus's words settled in the air, Anya felt a mixture of anger and fear. This isn't protection. We're out here trying to stop a monster, and you've been playing both sides. Just then, a noise from deeper in the woods interrupted their argument, a low growl that sent shivers down their spines. The three turned abruptly, instincts kicking in. We need to get out of here, Leon urged, glancing back at Klaus. If there's a real threat, we can't stick around. Klaus nodded, the urgency of the situation dawning on him. Follow me. There's a safer path through the trees, he said, leading them away from the confrontation that loomed in the darkness. As they moved cautiously through the underbrush, the shadows seemed to close in around them, and the looming threat of the fake cop felt more real than ever. The revelation of Klaus's involvement hung heavily in the air, intertwining their fates in a web of hidden truths and unspoken fears, as they ventured deeper into the night, unaware of the true nature of the danger that awaited them. As the figure in the police uniform stepped closer, the dim light of the moon illuminated familiar features that sent a shockwave through Klaus. He blinked rapidly, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. Jonas? His voice trembled, a mix of disbelief and hope laced with fear. The man who had been thought dead for over a decade stood before them, wearing the very uniform that had once been his badge of honor. Yes, Klaus. It's me, Jonas replied, his voice a gravelly whisper tinged with exhaustion. I had to fake my death. You have no idea what I've been through. He glanced around nervously, aware of the tension brewing in the air around them. Leon and Anya exchanged bewildered looks, caught in the crossfire of family and fear. What do you mean you faked your death? Klaus stepped forward, his heart racing. You were gunned down in that operation. We buried you. Jonas ran a hand through his disheveled hair, the weight of years etched in the lines of his face. That's what they wanted you to believe. The department was corrupt, Klaus. I found out too much. I was targeted, and to survive, I had to disappear. Anya, still processing the sudden twist in their night, interjected cautiously, but why the fake cop? Why put people in danger? Jonas's eyes hardened, revealing a glimmer of the officer he used to be. Because I needed to expose the rot within the police force. I've been gathering evidence, watching those in power who are involved in this deception. The fake cop sightings. They were supposed to draw out the real criminals. Klaus felt a storm of emotions swirling inside him, relief, anger, betrayal. You used us. You put Anya and Leon in harm's way. I had no choice. Jonas shouted, his voice echoing in the stillness of the woods. I had to make it believable. I thought if I could get close to the people who were investigating, I could show them the truth. Leon stepped forward, his skepticism replaced by a budding sense of understanding. So, you're saying all this chaos, is part of your plan? To take down a corrupt force? Yes, Jonas replied, catching his breath. But it's more complicated. There's someone at the top who was involved in my case, someone who orchestrated everything. They've been covering their tracks for years. I thought I could expose them, but I need your help. Your investigation has brought me closer to the truth. Klaus shook his head, grappling with the weight of the revelation. You were supposed to be dead, Jonas. I mourned you. I thought I lost my brother to a system that failed us. Tears welled in Jonas's eyes, reflecting the pain of their shared history. I know, and I'm sorry. But we can't let this go on any longer. There are innocent lives at stake, and if we don't act now, more will suffer. Anya, feeling the intensity of their exchange, chimed in, we have to figure out who's behind this. If they're as powerful as you say, we need a plan. Agreed, Leon added, his journalistic instincts kicking in. We can't confront them directly without solid evidence. We need to gather more intel. As they strategized, a chill swept through the air, and Klaus felt the remnants of his loyalty to the police force clash with his brother's radical methods. What if we're too late? What if they find out you're alive? Jonas's expression darkened. Then we'll have to be ready. I've been living in the shadows for too long. It's time to shine a light on this darkness. The group stood together, the weight of their shared mission settling heavily upon them. Each person was grappling with their own demons, Klaus with his past decisions, Anya with her fear for her family's safety, and Leon with the ethical dilemma of uncovering a truth that could shatter lives. As they prepared to leave the woods, Klaus glanced back at his brother, a mix of hope and trepidation swirling within him. Together, then. We'll finish what we started. Together, Jonas echoed, the flicker of determination igniting in his eyes. In that moment, they formed an unbreakable bond, not just as allies against the darkness, but as family, ready to confront the chilling reality that lay ahead. They had uncovered the first layer of a conspiracy that threatened to unravel not just their lives, but the very fabric of their town. The real nightmare was just beginning.